The desert didn't take prisoners. It swallowed them whole. Talia Vance knew this better than most. She'd been a scavenger in the outland dunes for 8 years, ever since the Unity collapse left Earth's frontier regions in chaos and the old trade hubs turned into sun-baked wrecks. Her camp was little more than a tarp anchored between a dead shuttle wing and a cluster of rocks. But it was hers, and it was hidden well enough that she could sleep without her hand on a blaster. Most nights, she crouched over the rusted husk of an old navigation tower, sweat beading on her brow as her sonic cutter buzzed through corroded titanium. The metal cracked with a satisfying snap. Another power conduit, still functional if she could clean the rust from its inner core. It might trade well with the miners up at Windmere. The wind kicked up grit again, whispering across the sands like a voice half-remembered in a dream. She paused, tensed, listening. Scavengers didn't survive long by ignoring their instincts. And right now, hers were humming like overloaded capacitors. Something was off. She killed the cutter, turned slowly, and scanned the desert ridge to the north. Nothing. Just heat waves rising in fluid motion, rippling across the landscape. But there, a movement, brief, sudden, a figure stumbling through the shimmering haze. Talia stood. Her fingers hovered near the pulse pistol on her hip. It was tall, humanoid, but it moved wrong, shoulders too wide, limbs slightly out of proportion. No human wore armor like that, not in this climate. Silver and violet plates shimmered across its body, segmented like insect carapace. A helmet hid its face, a long tail-like appendage trailing behind like a ceremonial sash. And it was sinking. Talia realized it too late. The fool had wandered right into the narrow quicks. The quicks weren't normal sand. They were a byproduct of ancient orbital bombardment, a stretch of chemically altered terrain that acted like liquefied silica. Step wrong, and it swallowed you like water. No bottom, no second chance. She ran. The figure struggled as the sand pulled it deeper. Its thrusters fired once, flaring blue and violent, but sputtered out with a wet hiss. Faulty tech, the kind that got you killed out here. Talia didn't think. She just threw down her gear pack, pulled her tether line from her belt, and skidded down the slope toward the edge of the quicks. "Stop moving," she shouted. "You'll sink faster." The figure didn't answer, but stilled, sinking chest-deep now. Its left arm clawed toward her. She braced her boots at the edge of solid ground and hurled the rope. "Grab it." The alien hesitated, but only for a heartbeat. It seized the line. The weight nearly yanked her forward, but she dug in, wrapped the tether around a sun-split root, and pulled. The seconds dragged. The rope strained. Her arms burned. But slowly, inch by inch, the armored figure began to rise from the shimmering trap. With a final, gasping heave, Talia pulled it free, both of them tumbling onto solid earth, coughing in the dust. Her breath came in sharp gasps. Her hands were torn, bloody from the friction. The alien lay still. Then, with a soft mechanical hiss, its helmet unlatched. The top slid back, revealing a face that was almost beautiful in its alienness. Dark skin, scaled like obsidian glass, eyes glowing faintly blue, vertical pupils contracting under the sun. Two thin ridges arched from brow to jawline, pulsing with embedded biocircuitry. Its expression was unreadable. Talia stared. "You're not just some mercenary, are you?" The alien blinked, then spoke. Its voice was low and resonant, processed through some internal translator. "You are human. Last I checked, I am Threshka, battle strategist. Second wing, Apex Vanguard Fleet." Talia's stomach dropped. Apex Vanguard? That wasn't a mercenary tag. That was a full-scale invasion unit. Not scavengers. Not pirates. She backed up slightly, pulse pistol already half-drawn. "You're here to scout for an invasion." Threshka didn't move. "My orders were classified. I crashed. This region was not mapped in our files. So I just saved the life of the guy sent to help destroy my planet." A pause. "Yes." Talia cursed under her breath, stood, and paced a few feet away. She should have left him, should have turned and walked. But she hadn't. Threshka sat up slowly, wincing as his systems rebooted. Sparks danced across his armor. "I owe you." "Yeah, well," she said, not looking back. Only by staying the hell out of my camp. You will not report me? She glanced over her shoulder. To who? There's no government left out here. Just scavengers, traitors, and ghosts. He watched her closely. You could have let me die. Why didn't you? She didn't answer right away. Finally, she sighed. Because we don't leave people to die in the sand. Not if we can help it. Another silence passed. Then, Threshka stood. Unsteady but upright. I will remember this. Talia picked up her gear. Do whatever you want. She started back toward her camp. And don't follow me. He didn't. When she turned back minutes later, he was gone, vanished into the dunes like a mirage. But something about the encounter stuck with her. The way he'd looked at her, not like a target or even an inferior species, but something else. As if her actions hadn't just surprised him. As if they had changed something. She slept that night with her pistol within reach, watching the stars flicker overhead. And somewhere, far above, those same stars parted, dozens of them, blinking in unison. Because high in orbit, ships moved where none had moved before. And one of them bore a new heading, etched into its command log by a soldier who should have been dead. Earth, Sector 9A. Subject, Talia Vance. Status, unknown. Priority, critical. The next morning, the desert was calm. Too calm. Talia Vance woke to the sound of her proximity alarm buzzing faintly. A tiny red on her scanner moving at a steady pace toward her camp from the east. No heat signature. No dust trail. Just a low, stealthy pulse that should have blended in a background noise. But it didn't. She blinked the sleep from her eyes, grabbed her scanner, and crept to the edge of her camp with her rifle in hand. The sun was just rising, slicing the dunes with golden light. There was nothing, just wind and emptiness. Then she saw it, a glimmer of metal half buried in sand. A small triangular object, no bigger than her fist. She approached it cautiously, rifle raised. It didn't move, didn't hum, just waited. A drop drone, Varelli design, highly illegal on Earth. She knew exactly what it meant. Threshka hadn't just left. He called for backup. Talia picked up the drone carefully and cracked it open with her multi-tool. Its internal log was encrypted, but she bypassed the basic firewalls. Barely. One file stood out. A signal burst sent 17 hours ago. Destination, low orbit. Receiver, unknown ship. Encryption level, military. Her heart sank. You called them. She stood quickly, eyes scanning the horizon. If a stealth drone had made it this far, someone or something was already watching her. Suddenly, her comm link buzzed. Static filled her ear, then a familiar voice, rough and calm. Human. I require contact. She froze. Thresh. Yes. I am nearby. Not armed. Do not fire. Talia raised her rifle anyway. You sent a military drone. You're marking targets. Incorrect. I was confirming coordinates. My fleet will not strike Earth. Not without new orders. That's real comforting. I must speak to you face to face. Others follow. Dangerous ones. Not on my command. Talia's gut twisted. How many? Enough to cleanse a region. We must move. Now, a rush of wind blasted past her. Sand spiraled in miniature twisters. The warning couldn't have been clearer. She packed in record time. Salvage forgotten, only essentials. As she sprinted toward the canyon pass, a shadow crossed the sun above her. She glanced up, expecting a bird or a drone. It wasn't. A sleek black scout ship, small and silent, hovered just overhead. No sound, no propulsion wake. A Dominion model, the kind used for precision raids. Then it vanished over the ridge. Talia didn't stop running. 30 minutes later, in a narrow ravine carved by ancient floods, she met him again. Threshka. He stood taller now, cleaner, his armor scrubbed of sand, new nanoplates patched across his chest. But his body language was different. He didn't stand like a soldier anymore. He stood like a fugitive. She aimed her rifle as she approached. You lied to me. He inclined his head. I withheld. Not lied. You called them here. No. Others intercepted my signal. Not my doing. Because of me? He didn't speak for a moment. Because of us. Talia's hands tightened on her weapon. I should leave you here for them. Then Earth burns. The words hit her harder than expected. She wanted to walk away, Let him deal with his own disaster. But something in his voice stopped her. Guilt, maybe regret, or maybe something else. Behind them, the sound of engines roared low and steady. Thresh's head snapped toward the sky. Too late. They descend. Talia followed his gaze. On the horizon, for ships broke through the cloud line. Matte black hulls shaped like spearheads. No insignia, no running lights. Not Apex Fleet, not Dominion Standard. Mercenary class, hired by rogue Varelli generals. The kind who didn't ask for surrender. Talia grabbed Thresh by the wrist. We can't stay in the open. Move. They ran, climbing into the jagged cave network that spidered beneath the canyon walls. Talia had scouted the tunnels years ago. Narrow, tight, confusing to anyone who didn't know them. Good for hiding. They ducked inside, just as the first pulse cannon lit the upper ridge in flame. Hours passed in the dark. The caves twisted downward into old mining routes and half-collapsed war shelters. Relics from Earth's failed post-contact era. Concrete, sand, metal. Silence. Talia moved quietly, flashlight off, relying on instinct. Thresh moved behind her, heavy but careful. Eventually, they stopped to catch their breath. You brought them, she said again. Even if it wasn't on purpose, they're here because of you. I did not intend. Intent doesn't matter. People are going to die. Thresh lowered his head. Then help me stop it. She laughed bitterly. I'm one person, and yet you saved me. That mattered. She looked away. Saving someone doesn't fix everything. No, but it changes everything. Silence stretched between them. Then footsteps. Not his. Not hers. Others. She froze. Thresh did too. Did they find us? Threshka didn't answer. Talia slid behind a rusted bulkhead, rifle raised. Her breath shallow. Through a crack in the wall, two figures appeared in the tunnel, heavily armored, scanning the shadows with pulse rifles. Their voices clicked in a harsh tongue. Varelli, Merc dialect. They were less than 10 meters away. Talia gripped her weapon. Then, a third figure emerged behind them, larger, cloaked in a rippling shimmer field. It wasn't Varelli. It was something worse. A bounty-class war morph engineered. Silent. Cold. She'd only seen them in reports. Genetically modified enforcers used to eliminate high-value targets without a trace. And it had already scented them. Threshka whispered, It's him. Skarnul. They sent a cleaner. Talia's pulse spiked. You gotta be kidding me. If he finds us. Then Skarn turned his head, sniffed the air, and took a step toward the bulkhead. Talia tensed. Don't move, she whispered. But her foot shifted, barely, onto a piece of old steel. It clanged softly. Skarn's eyes glowed red. He let out a low hiss and charged. Talia fired first, pulse rounded the shoulder. It barely slowed him. Threshka moved to intercept, slamming into the war morph side with brutal force. They collided in a flurry of metal, claws, and blinding speed. Go! Thresh roared. I'm not leaving. Go! She turned, sprinted down the dark tunnel, lightless, airless, with only the echoes of combat behind her. Then, silence. Dead silence. She skidded to a halt. Turned back. Nothing. Just darkness. Thresh. No answer. Only the sound of footsteps. But they weren't his. Talia's breath caught in her throat. The sound of footsteps echoed through the cavern. Slow, methodical, not Thresh gait. Heavier, unhurried, and coming straight for her. She turned off her flashlight and dropped into the crevice between two collapsed walls. Darkness swallowed everything. Her own heartbeat sounded like a drum in her ears. Please don't find me. Please don't. The silhouette of the war morph, Skarnul, passed the edge of the debris wall. His red eyes flicked side to side like twin searchlights. Blood stained the edges of his armor. Fluid too dark to be human. Too blue. Talia's stomach dropped. Thresh, she mouthed silently. She felt the scream rise in her throat, but swallowed it down. If he was alive, calling out would get him killed. If he was dead, no, she thought. He's not. She waited, motionless, until the footsteps faded. Then she crept out from the rubble and ran. The underground complex twisted deeper into forgotten machinery rooms and abandoned sublevels. places the world above had erased. Talia's mind raced faster than her legs. If Threshka was dead, then the mercenaries would regroup, and then they'd launch a full sweep of the valley. And once they found a calm tower, they'd call in the rest. But something else nagged at her. Scarnell hadn't followed normal hunt protocols. He'd passed her by, intentionally, and the fact he bled, that wasn't supposed to happen. War morphs were engineered for perfection. He wanted her to run. A chill crept up her spine. This wasn't a hunt. It was a setup. She reached an old command room, half collapsed, wires dangling from the ceiling like vines. A flickering terminal blinked dim green in one corner. She tapped the screen. It sputtered to life, barely functional. But their local system logs. Auto-sync feed backups. Sensor pings. One feed was still recording. Last time stamped 20 minutes ago. She tapped it open. The grainy footage displayed Threshka, wounded but alive, dragging himself into the corridor, slamming his back against the wall. He held a detonator. Moments later, Skarn rounded the corner and stopped. But he didn't attack. He spoke. The system didn't record audio, but it showed everything else. A conversation. Calm. Civil. Skarn placed something at Thresh's feet. Then he left. Talia froze. This wasn't an ambush, she whispered. It was a message. She scrubbed the footage forward. The item Skarn dropped, was it a beacon? No. A cube. Talia stared at the shape, heart pounding. It was unmistakable. A Dominion data cube. Encoded. Personal. And Skarn had delivered it to Thresh. Not to kill him. To warn him? She downloaded the last few seconds of the footage and slipped a portable drive into her jacket. Behind her, a soft clicking sound echoed through the air. Talia spun around, rifle raised. But no one was there. Only an object, resting just beyond the doorway. The same cube. She stepped toward it carefully. It buzzed once, activated, and projected a hologram. The image that appeared froze her in place. It was a fleet. A massive one. Borelli, yes, but fractured. Some ships bore no insignia. Some looked hybridized, with tech clearly human in origin. The data scrolled beside the image. Objective, extraction of Talia Vance. Status, unknown/conflicted. Command authorization, red lock protocol. And then a voice. Not Skarn's. Not Threshka's. A woman. Calm. Cold. To the human known as Talia Vance. If you are seeing this, the Dominion recognizes you as a node of anomaly. Your action, saving a Vanguard strategist, has triggered defection patterns across 13 core fleets. You have destabilized a quadrant without lifting a weapon. Therefore, you are marked as a redlock entity. Not to be executed, not to be studied, but to be understood. We are coming. The hologram fizzled out. Talia stared, heart pounding. Redlock entity? The Dominion wasn't just trying to capture her or eliminate her. They wanted to know how a single human gesture had caused a galactic fracture. The mercenaries weren't bounty hunters. They were containment. She left the command room in a daze, climbing deeper into the tunnels. Every step echoed in the silence. She tried her comm link again. Thresh, if you're alive, I need you. Now. Static. Then just faintly his voice. Alive, Quadrant 7, bleeding, coordinates transmitting. A ping flashed across her HUD. She ran. Quadrant 7 was near the cave mouth, too exposed. She found him slumped against a shattered column. One arm crushed, armor sparking wildly. His face was pale, scale plating cracked. But his eyes opened as she knelt. You're alive, she said, breathless. Barely. She held up the cube. I know why they're here. His expression didn't change. You knew. I suspected. Not confirmed. Until now. What's a redlock? He hesitated. A wild factor. A variable outside all projections. The kind of anomaly that doesn't destroy from strength, but from change. She shook her head. That's not me. I'm a mechanic. A nobody. No. You are something the Dominion can't model. Kindness. Mercy. Spontaneity. That terrifies them more than war. Talia sat back. A scavenger girl from Earth had triggered a multi-system rebellion without firing a shot, because she threw a rope into the sand. You said they'd destroy Earth. Not destroy. Isolate. cut off the variable before it spreads further. She stood, jaw set. Then we don't run. No. We warn. Threshka held up a damaged transmitter module. If we reach the surface and link with my internal beacon, I can send a system-wide burst to every fleet, every rebel cell. A single message. What message? The truth. That you, Talia Vance, exist. A new rumble shook the ground. Above them, the cave ceiling cracked. We're out of time. Thresh coughed, blood streaking down his chin. If I don't make it, you will. She slung his arm over her shoulder. I saved you once, she whispered. But that wasn't kindness. He blinked. No, that was humanity. She dragged him toward the nearest exit hatch as light pierced the ceiling, and a shadow descended from orbit. Not a ship, a fleet. The desert burned. Twin suns glared down on the outland dunes, baking the sands into mirrors of molten gold. Thunderheads of smoke rose in the distance, curling above the canyon like signals of war. Talia and Threshka emerged from the caves, bruised and half-broken, into the open air just as the shadows of the fleet passed overhead. Not one ship, not 5, dozens. Some were standard Dominion cruisers. Others were older, scavenged, retrofitted, bristling with hybrid tech. And in the center of them all, a massive capital vessel loomed. Jagged, dark, silent, like a leviathan watching the surface from orbit. The air shimmered with heat and energy. A low hum began to vibrate through the sand. Then, a pulse, invisible but felt, like a heartbeat in the bones of the earth. Talia's legs buckled. She dropped to one knee, gasping. Threshka held steady beside her, eyes narrow. Orbital suppression field. They're cutting off atmospheric signals. We'll have no long-range comms. So, we're alone, she said. For now. Talia's eyes scanned the ridge ahead. The old relay tower, a skeleton of Earth's pre-collapse communication system, still stood there. Rusted, cracked, but tall enough to broadcast across the desert basin. If we boost your transmitter from the top, she said, will it get through the field? Maybe, or it'll fry us both. Better than doing nothing. Another tremor shook the sand as small craft descended. Sleek black hounds with engines that didn't bark, only whispered. Dropships. Light, fast, meant for extraction, or assassination. Talia shouldered Thresh's weight and began to climb. Every step up the slope was agony. Her legs screamed. Her lungs burned. But she kept going. At the summit, she collapsed behind the tower's base, dragging Thresh with her. The relay's interface panel was fused shut with rust. Can you override it? Thresh nodded weakly. He reached inside his armor and pulled a gleaming coil of synth wire from beneath his chest plate. His claws worked the line into the panel's input port, bypassing the decay. The panel flared to life. I could send a burst. Short, but wide. Do it. He paused, looked at her. The moment I activate it, they'll triangulate the signal. Talia nodded. Then we make that moment count. Down below, the dropships opened. War morphs. 4 of them, clad in iridescent black armor, eyes glowing with artificial hate. Skarnull led them, unscarred, untouched. A perfect predator. He didn't charge. He walked, deliberate, calm, as if he already knew how this ended. Talia stepped forward, rifle raised. Hands trembling but steady. You don't have to do this, she shouted. Skarn paused, tilted his head. You misunderstand. I must. You are an anomaly. A fracture in the Dominion's logic. Your kindness rewrote everything. That cannot be allowed. Then maybe your logic's broken. He smiled, just slightly. Perhaps. But I will be your end, regardless. He raised his hand. The other war morphs surged forward. Talia fired. One bolt struck center mass, did nothing. Another clipped a morph's leg, staggering it briefly. Then they were upon her. Threshka roared and threw himself forward, slamming one morph off the edge of the ridge with brute force. A second lunged at Talia. She ducked, rolled, blasted upward, point blank into its helmet. Sparks flew. It crumpled, but her shoulders snapped as its claw raked her side. Blood, heat, pain. She screamed, but didn't fall. She turned in time to see Skarn walking straight toward Thresh, claws extended. Threshka met a mid-sprint. The two titans collided in a shockwave of metal on metal. Sparks, shouts, blood, fire. Talia dragged herself back to the relay. Fingers numb. She grabbed the panel. Do it, she choked. Send it. Thresh, locked in battle, twisted just enough to slam his fist into the control node. The tower pulsed. A blinding burst of white light arced skyward, straight through the suppression field. For a second, everything froze. Even the warm morphs turned skyward. The signal had launched. Skarn shrieked. Not pain, not anger, frustration. You don't understand what you've done, he roared. Talia pulled herself upright, bleeding from her side. I don't need to understand. I just needed to do it. He charged her now, fast, animalistic, claws ready to shred. Then, a sound split the sky, not from orbit, from the west. A sonic boom rolled across the dunes as ships screamed across the horizon. Earth-class, jury-rigged, uneven, but real. Not Dominion, not Apex. Human. Dozens of them. The signal had reached someone. Reinforcements. Skarn stopped short, calculating. His eyes flicked to the sky, to the ships, then back to Talia. This isn't over. No, she said, raising her pistol. It's just starting. She fired. The bolt hit Skarn square in the chest. And this time it mattered. His shield flickered. His armor cracked. He staggered backward, stunned. Threshka, bloody but alive, lunged forward and struck him with a final blow, an uppercut that hurled the warm morph off the ridge and into the ravine below. Silence. Then a cheer, raw, human voices from the incoming ships, now dropping troops, supplies, medics. Talia collapsed to her knees. Thresh caught her. You did it. She laughed, wet, exhausted, disbelieving. No, we did. The sky above them glowed with a new dawn, not of light, but of change. The sky shimmered with aftershock. Ash drifted lazily through the morning light. The battle was over, but nothing was still. Talia Vance sat on a cracked ridge beside a half-destroyed relay tower, wrapped in a thermal cloak one of the human troopers had given her. Her shoulder was dislocated, side bandaged, lip split, but she was alive. So was Threshka. He stood nearby, armor half-melted and limbs trembling, but upright. His once impeccable carapace was charred and scored. One eye was darkened, a coolant leak behind the lens, but he hadn't spoken of it. Not yet. The medics worked quickly around them, patching wounds, tagging equipment, hauling the dead. The ships that had answered the call were a mixed bag. Freeborn freighters, ex-military deserters, colony survivors who hadn't seen Earth in decades. But they had responded. All of them. Because someone had broadcast a signal of truth. Not orders. Not tactics. Hope. And hope had answered. Talia sipped water from a ration bottle, wincing at the pain in her ribs. Thresh approached, quiet as a shadow, and sat beside her. You don't look so bad, she said with a crooked smile. I'm aware I resemble recycled wreckage. He paused. But thank you. She laughed, a short, tired sound. For what? For pulling me from sand. And again from death. You really owe me 2 favors now. 3, he corrected. You also fix my shoulder. He rotated it stiffly with a grunt. Her gaze drifted up to the sky, where clouds of black smoke still hovered over the desert. They'll come again, won't they? Yes. Not immediately, but yes. He didn't sugarcoat it. The Dominion lost more today than a battle. They lost control. News of this will spread faster than they can contain. Redlock protocol failed. You became something they didn't expect. Talia turned her head slowly. Do I need to run? Fresh voice softened. You need to decide. She was quiet for a long time. Below them, the reinforcements were setting up outposts, installing turret rings, antenna arrays, triage tents. People were building again, just hours after the attack. It was the most human thing she'd ever seen. From nothing, resilience. Not many people can say they accidentally kicked off a galactic rebellion, she muttered. Fewer still survive it. She studied him for a moment. You going back to your fleet? Threshka didn't answer right away. No, not as I was. The Apex Vanguard fractured the moment you spared me. Their loyalty wavered. Orders were questioned. I will return, but as something else. She narrowed her eyes. As what? A bridge. He met her gaze, his remaining eye glowing softly in the dust. Between what we were and what we could become. She wasn't sure what to say to that. So she reached over, gripped his arm, and squeezed. Then don't screw it up. Hours passed. The bodies of the war morphs were burned, their tech disassembled. Scar Null's remains were never found. Only a smoking crater and fractured armor shards. Whether he was dead or simply gone, no one could say. But the fear in the troops' eyes told her no one was betting on the former. The human reinforcements had stabilized the sector, but command chatter revealed deeper ripples. Her message had been heard, not just locally but system-wide. Colonies previously afraid to speak now rose in protest. Several Apex fleets had already begun questioning Dominion command. A handful defected entirely, locking out their overseers and activating autonomy protocols. The fire had started, and it had a name. Talia Vance. That name, her name, was now encoded in hundreds of rebel logs, whispered in the back channels of fleets light years apart. Some called her the Sandborn, others the Rope Bearer. A few, oddly, the Quick Savior. Threshka offered a single nod when he heard it. They need symbols. You are one now. She looked down at her bruised, filthy hands. Never thought saving someone would make me dangerous. To tyrants, it always does. As the twin moons rose that night, Talia stood on the ridge where it all began. The same quicksand pit she had pulled him from just a day and a half ago shimmered in the starlight. The desert had erased all signs of the struggle. Quiet again. Threshka stepped beside her. This time, no armor. Just a cloak wrapped around his massive shoulders and a small device in his hand, a cube. This isn't another Redlock tracker, is it? No, he held it out. This is yours. It holds a signal, the one you sent. Keep it. You may need it again. She took it, feeling the weight. Not metal. Meaning. Behind them, one of the human captains approached. A grizzled woman with a cybernetic jaw and a hardened gait. We're heading back to Bastion Station, she said. Could use someone like you on the coordination team. You're the reason we're not Ash right now. Talia raised an eyebrow. You sure you want a desert scavenger in a command chair? The captain shrugged. You've already done more than half, our admirals. And besides, rebellion needs a face. Talia looked to Thresh. He nodded slowly. They are offering more than a seat. They're offering a future. She pocketed the cube, then smiled. Let's build it. Far above, in deep space, the Dominion command spires trembled with uncertainty. Dozens of protocols were activated. Agents dispatched. Old legends unearthed. But none of it mattered. The signal was out. The galaxy had changed. And in the deepest black of the void, someone, something, watched Earth now with new eyes. Not as a forgotten world of dust and ruin, but as a spark, a symbol, a start, hint at a sequel. In a hidden Dominion vault, far from any star system, a red warning blinked to life. Redacted entity, Talia Vance. Classification, contagious hope. New status, uncontainable. A voice crackled from the shadows. Initiate contingency. Bring the old ones. Bring the architects. A new war had already begun. They just didn't know it yet. The signal became legend. Talia Vance's burst transmission, broadcast from the ridge of an ancient relay tower with one broken transmitter and a dying alien beside her, was replayed across thousands of systems in the months that followed. The message was simple, raw, just her voice, a minute long, no polish. This is Talia Vance from Earth. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a leader. I'm just someone who reached out a hand to an enemy who was sinking in sand and pulled him out. He didn't kill me. I didn't kill him. That choice changed everything. If you're out there and you're tired of following broken orders, of silence and fear, of pretending cruelty is logic, then stop. Be human, even if you're not. And somehow that voice, cracked, worn, bleeding, broke open the stars. 6 years later, the Dominion fractured completely. Not through full-scale warfare, but through collapse from within. One fleet turned, then another. Systems once governed by hierarchy and code fell to voices crying for independence. By the time the Supreme Spire gave the order for extermination campaigns, half its admirals had gone dark or declared neutrality. They didn't lose to firepower. They lost to meaning. Because across space, people began to believe in something alien to the Dominion's machine-like structure. Choice. Some defectors formed their own collectives. Others aligned with the Bastion Accord, an emergent alliance of free systems centered around a single shared value: liberty, not dominance. At its heart stood a figure they all recognized, even if few had ever met her. Talia Vance. She never called herself a leader, never sought titles, but the people insisted. She became a liaison between species, a living bridge between humans and defected Varelli. When the Accord's charter was written, the first line of the preamble read, "A single kindness can detonate 1,000 stars." Thresh Ka, now reborn as Ambassador General Thresh of the Varelli Reformed, stood at her side at every signing ceremony. He no longer wore the old armor. Instead, he bore the scars of his past openly, even integrating elements of human design into his ceremonial garb. The two became symbols, yes, but also friends. Unbreakable. The relay tower where it all began still stands. Restored. Preserved. It is known now as the Signal Spire. Pilgrims visit it every year. Some to honor her, others to listen. For the original signal plays once every standard cycle, unchanged, unedited. The area around the ridge became a sanctuary planet. Vance's Rest, they called it. Not a military base, not a capital, just a place where ships from across the stars land in peace. The monument there isn't tall, just a weather-worn rope, looped and preserved in a crystalline field. A plaque reads, "Here, a human through a rope." That's it. No medals, no declarations of conquest, just the memory of a moment. A choice. Of course, not everyone welcomed change. Pockets of Dominion resistance survived. Some evolved into darker things. Rumors spread of a shadow faction called the Architects, ancient ones hidden in cryo tombs, now awakening because of the collapse. They blamed the anomaly for the unraveling. They wanted it corrected. They wanted her erased. Scarnull was never confirmed dead. His name became a ghost story across fringe systems. The shadow hunter who failed to kill the human that broke the stars. Some said he wandered without purpose now. Others said he was waiting, evolving, learning to feel. Even in peace, danger rippled just out of sight. Talia Vance, now older, with lines at her eyes and silver threading her hair, still lives on Vance's Rest. She grows desert lilies outside the small home built at the edge of the canyon. She doesn't give speeches, doesn't attend galas. She helps repair ships, still runs diagnostics, still makes terrible coffee. But sometimes, just sometimes, young recruits from across the galaxy knock on her door. They say, "Tell me what happened back then." And she always tells them the truth. "I threw a rope to someone drowning." That's it. They always nod, always leave inspired. Because they're not looking for tactics. They're looking for hope. In universities on Zarmouth Prime, the story of the rope bearer is taught in ethics courses and war colleges. In refugee colonies on Corgan Spine, children act out the tale with sticks and cloaks, yelling "Be human" like a war cry. Even in the distant frost worlds of the Adrex Clade, where emotion is outlawed and names are replaced by numbers, a forbidden phrase circulates like contraband. Don't stop. The story had consequences no one expected. Entire empires re-examined their laws. Machine races installed choice protocols in their next firmware updates. Biological castes, once built on control, began to question their oldest rights. And far beyond known space, past the edge of Dominion charts, something ancient stirred. Not malevolent, just watching. It had seen fire before. Destruction. Conquest. But never mercy used as revolution. It learned her name, and waited, because even it couldn't predict what humanity might do next. Threshka visits once a year. No guards, no ships, just him, walking the ridge with a staff and a weary smile. He sits beside her garden, drinks bad coffee, and watches the sun fall below the dunes. Sometimes they speak. Sometimes they say nothing. But once he asked, "Do you regret it? That moment?" The rope. Talia looked out over the sand. "No, that was the best thing I ever did, even if it brought war." She turned to him, eyes hard and bright. It didn't bring war. It ended silence. That's different. Freshcon nodded. And somewhere out beyond the stars, the signal echoed again. One last time. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell. But one phrase remained whispered among the stars. Words spoken in defiance, in hope, in unbreakable will. Human, don't stop.